So, it being Tuesday night, 7 p.m. roughly Central Time, we're accounting for 3 time zones tonight. Joining me from the Pacific time zone is Marnie Glickman. Marnie, I just asked you this earlier, but what color is the sky in your world tonight?
Well, I'm so happy to be here. Hi, Jason, and everyone, Stephanie and Jen. The weather report is the sky is still white. There was about 30 minutes of blue sky for the first time in a month. We have a break from the heat, so I will not be sweating on the show.
Great.
We have a temporary break from hazardous air, but we still, when we go outside, we wear 2 masks, the smoke mask and then the COVID mask.
Oh.
But thanks for asking.
Well, we're glad that everyone else is mask-free because we're all in the confines of our own homes, obviously. But joining us from Minnesota, not far from the Hopkins School District, is Jenn Price. And joining us from Philadelphia, PA, is Stephanie Brown. Thank you guys for joining us tonight on KHOP88. How's everything going? Stephanie, how are things in Philadelphia? Tell us about your life in Philadelphia. What do you do there? How did you end up in Philadelphia?
Mm-hmm. Yes. How does one end up in Philadelphia? So I've been living in Philadelphia for, I guess, over 20 years. My first encounter with Philadelphia was college. I came here to go to the University of Pennsylvania. And then I wound up moving back after graduation, about 20 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. I had an aunt of mine used to live here. They all moved to North Carolina. My family, all these relatives all moved back to North Carolina. There was a job opportunity here for me, and I took it.
What
and
kind
you
of
work at the university? Yes.
I do, actually. It's like all things spring from the University of Pennsylvania, good and bad. I work at the University of Pennsylvania. I'm an administration type. I work in human resources, and I do communications for human resources.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Jen, you are just in Excelsior, so not too far away from Hopkins High School and Gatewood Elementary. And what those guitars behind you, we're told, are not yours. You were not a guitar player. So what's the short version of the last 30 years for you?
Let's see. I went to college outside of Boston. I did exchange stuff and spent a couple years in Costa Rica, and then I went to Chicago for a couple of years, and then I came back to the Twin Cities. And I've probably been here about 20 years. I've been here a while, and right now I just started a new job within the last week. It came up really suddenly, and I'm now working in the Minnetonka schools. I've never totally new gig for me. So an exciting time to jump in during COVID.
Yeah.
Good time.
What do you do there? What do you do for the school district?
I am an immersion paraprofessional with 2nd grade. So it's very exciting. I'm spending some awesome time with some very cool 7 and 8-year-olds that I'm getting to know. So yeah.
Are those kids in school, or are they distance learning?
They are in school 5 days a week. So yes, they are in school, and it is really, they're doing as great of a job with it as I think can be done, and it's still pretty chaotic because it's just a completely different world. Like, I'm working with a teacher who's been doing this for 20 plus years with 2nd grade at this school, and she's just kind of got this wild-eyed look much of the time. She's a 2nd grade teacher, so nothing can totally throw her, but it's crazy town a bit, but going okay so far.
Cool. Mr. Joyce, it appears our live video stream has ended.
Oh,
Whoa,
Do you want to try again?
I'm going to try again.
it's all right.
It's not. It's Mark Zuckerberg's fault.
Yeah.
We can blame it on him for sure.
Yes.
Guy on the phone.
Now, while we are not live streaming, I'm assuming we're still recording.
Yeah, we're
Yes,
still recording. We're still making the show.
Okay.
and you can
Um,
see the red light on the top, so you can know
I see. Yeah, I
that.
see that.
That means we are recording.
Mhm.
It's exciting. So I read on the internet you went to Wellesley, Jen?
Did.
and what made you leave the East Coast as opposed to stay?
You know, I did an exchange program the end of my junior year in Costa Rica, and then extended it through the first semester of my senior year. And my focus after graduation is I wanted to go back there. And I did that for a little while, and then for a variety of reasons, came back, and I went to a job in Chicago, and I actually I was rooming with Joel and Krupp. Now Joel and
Oh,
Krupp.
yeah.
Yeah, so we were roommates for a while there in Chicago, and then yeah, I just kind of wanted to come back and be close to family. As weird as that sounds for somebody in their 20s, but so
Yeah.
yeah, and then I had job stuff in many Twin Cities, and so I stayed.
Well, we are back live on Facebook after a small interruption. Excuse me. We were just talking with Jen about why would you leave the East Coast versus stay. I went to college on the East Coast, and I didn't want to stay one day later.
Funny.
I'm just a Westerner at heart, and just didn't feel at home.
Yeah, I don't know that it felt like home to me either. I mean, it was fine. It was, you know, met awesome people. I really enjoyed my experience, but yeah, it didn't feel like home to me either, I don't think. Evidently.
Stephanie, do you think you'd ever move back to Minnesota?
Well, that's a good question. Perhaps. Now that my parents no longer live in Minnesota, there's less of a draw. I love visiting. I love coming back. You know, and it's about as different from Philadelphia as maybe you could get in the United States. So, you know, it's always interesting to come back, and it's not like there's a big culture shock, but it's just like, okay, yeah, there are still regional differences in the United States, even though, you know, maybe Macy's is everywhere, but yeah.
So what, like, of all the big cities, I think Philadelphia is one that I'm completely unfamiliar with. I don't think I've ever been there. I mean, I was there. I remember seeing the Liberty Bell when I was a kid, so I was there at some point, but I don't think I ever slept a night in Philadelphia. So what do you like about the city? What do you love about living there?
Well, one thing I really like about Philadelphia is the neighborhood I live in now, which is West Philadelphia, also known sort of as University City. You know, when I'm walking around the neighborhood, it just feels great. I also really like the fall, which is starting unofficially now, and springtime is beautiful in Philadelphia. So it's kind of one of those cities that, you know, it's like in between New York and DC, and, you know, so sometimes it gets short shrift. But that also means it's easy to get to New York and DC without having to spend New York and DC money to live. So
Yeah.
places.
And you did live in New York, didn't you, Steph, for a couple of years? How long?
Yes. I lived in New York in the 90s for a few years. First on the Upper East Side, sort of, and then in Brooklyn for a couple of years. And Brooklyn was fantastic. I'm not gonna lie. But I had an opportunity to move to Philadelphia with you know, and a job with benefits, which is nice. It was nice to be able to
Always.
go to the dentist, you know. In my 20s, I did a lot of freelancing and temping. You know, it was exciting, but it doesn't pay for your root canal if you need one. So I had to just sort of like make a choice to do something a little more stable. Yeah.
I can understand that. Well, one of the reasons I was excited to have you all on is because you've been lifelong friends. And can you tell us, when did you first meet each other and what are your first memories of each other? And we're off air again.
Okay.
Pause, we want to get this live. Let's see what's going on.
Because I guess you can edit this chunk out later.
Yes, we can edit out.
What's that? What's the problem? We have a problem?
We're off again.
And
You sure about that? I'm seeing us. I think we're fine.
Oh, okay.
Oh, never mind. Can't edit that out either.
Okay, back to my question. So, Stephanie, when was the first time you met Jenn?
Well, I know Jenn was at Gatewood in first grade, so was I. That was my first year at Gatewood. My earliest memories of Jenn are from second grade when we were in Mrs. Jensen's class. And I was, of course, positively impressed by her wit and friendliness. Yeah. I guess I should mention the colonial days, Jenn's amazing colonial days knowledge that she shared with the class. Instead of asking to go to the bathroom, she rose her hand and asked to go to the outhouse.
Wow.
Those colonial times.
Wow. I've been working here when I was on the school board to end the colonial days curriculum, which still exists in Northern California, even in 2020, which is amazing. So Jenn, what is your first memory of Stephanie?
Probably also Mrs. Jensen's class, and it's sort of more a general memory of you just being super smart, always having just something really clever to say, and just having a ton of super fun energy when we were running around the playground at Gatewood. I also remember, and this was later, this was like fourth grade, maybe fourth or fifth grade, and I remember having my mind blown that like I thought you were also very sophisticated, because I think you're a pretty sharp dresser, as you are, but I remember not being aware of the existence of I think LL Bean before that occasion, and you introduced me to the world of LL Bean, I think it was,
Well,
in fourth grade, and I was like, ooh, this, like, wow, it seemed like the big time.
Now, I heard through the grapevine that someone else was in your class,
Yeah.
Jason Joyce. Is this true, women? And tell us, just give us a break. I want to hear about Jason Joyce in second grade.
Take it away, Steph.
well, I'm gonna say this even though Jason said he didn't remember it, but one of the things I remember about Jason was just being really creative, and his creativity. He had put together this, like, he made his own comic book using like pictures that he cut out of these like robot toys, and I thought that was really cool.
You know, we were talking before we went live here, but like, and I mean, we've gotten into this with other guests too, because I think that maybe it had something to do with the fact that we were all in school in the 70s and the 80s and like pre, digital media. I mean, really, we grew up listening to records and watching movies on film, and, like VCRs didn't come along till we were, teenagers. And, but we were encouraged to be creative. Creativity sort of wound its way into our schoolwork and the curriculum. We talked about, like, I believe the two of you and I were always in, or very often were in the same reading group. That's what I remember. And like in reading groups, like you would go through these reading books and there would always be plays. So we were always like producing plays out of these reading groups.
Yeah.
And it was just great fun. Like those things were just super fun.
I remember in 3rd grade, I wasn't in the reading group that was doing the plays that particular time, but there was like this stellar version of Rapunzel. Does anyone remember it?
Oh my gosh.
And David Green was, I think he was the prince.
I think so too.
Sounds right.
No one else remembers. This is like, why do I
remember it?
Oh, then you remember.
For sure.
I remember though being in plays for like reading class and coming home and telling my mother, like, I need to have a costume to make me look like whatever. And then that was, you know, then you'd have to like go scrounging through, you know, the boxes in the basement. Cause that, again, that was the thing. Like, you couldn't just go to a store and buy costumes. Like those were not available. So you had to
remember who I remember our main source for like the tippy top, most awesome costumes, Julie Hepner.
Yeah.
And she was, and they were super generous, like kind of they, you know, with the rest of us. But I remember Julie Hepner just being like, she was the source for all the good.
We will have to have Julie on the show. Julie, of course, is one of those. There's just a handful of these kids, right? Who's Julie Hebner's mother was the substitute teacher, who's like the permanent substitute teacher for our class. Like Mrs. Hepner was always subbing.
That's right.
Always.
Presence. And
I have an amazing, interesting technology memory. I have an interesting technology memory involving the Hepners. So I remember Julie Hepner's dad, I believe, was in engineering, worked at Control Data, and one or something, I can't remember.
Sounds right.
You know, Honeywell Control Data is one of those. And and I remember they had like a prototype touch screen at their house.
Wow.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and it was like, and I'd never seen anything like it before, and I didn't see anything like it for years, like out in public. Yeah.
That's cool.
Well, that's really cool. Speaking of plays, we have a question from the Peanut Gallery. Dr. Mark Miggy, I just like calling him doctor because I don't get to do that very often. This is a question Mark cannot watch right now because he's celebrating his wife's birthday, but he sent this question in advance. Stephanie, thank you for writing A Night with Doris. It was a great experience that I remember fondly. Are you still writing? My daughter is a senior at Hopkins in theater. I've told her about it many times. Would you be willing to share the script with us?
Oh, that's so cool. I'm so glad that you have happy memories about that. Talking about getting costumes out of a basement and stuff. That was there's a lot of scrounging that went around with that production. Yeah, so A Night with Doris. I think I still do have copies of that. It was my good fortune to have that show selected and published in this Young Playwrights anthology. You know, when I can't remember, I think I was in college when it got selected, and hopefully my parents didn't throw away all the copies so I can find it.
No,
Talk about the process of producing that play, because as I mean, if you can imagine in high school, there you've got like mainstream media, which is, you know, choir, band, the theater productions that the school sponsors, and then the indie media would be like kids who have their own rock band or whatever, or people like yourself who produced your own independent play at the high school, right? How did that all even come about?
You know what? I wish I can remember all the like administrative details. It may have been, maybe it was an independent study. Somehow like wormed my way into using the amazing stage at the school. I think I was able to do it as an independent study, I think. I'm not sure.
Were you a senior? I mean, I don't remember the play, and maybe some of the other audience members don't. So you wrote the play in high school, and then was it at the theater?
Yes, yeah, we were able to get it. We were able to produce it and have it staged in the theater of Hopkins High School. That really cool. I haven't done theater in so long. I forget the names of kinds of theater.
I don't remember that it had a name. It was just the theater.
It's a kind of. No, what I mean is
Oh,
the technical
thrust
name.
stage.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
the thrust stage, yeah. So, I'd written this, I was in this program through the Playwright Center, which is in Minneapolis, or it was, and I confess I can't remember, or I don't know if it's still in existence. I'm assuming it is. And they had a summer youth program that I participated in for a couple of years. So I was encouraged to write as part of that. And I also had a lot of community theater experience along with Jenn at what was once called Child's Play Theater. I think it's evolved into something else now. But so I was always really excited about that type of thing as a kid. And, I swear I auditioned for every single thing at Hopkins High School, but, I was just like, didn't get picked for whatever reason. And also, again, acting is hard, and I don't know if I could even do it. But I wrote this play and cast it, and we directed it, and it was so fun. It was just, I was really lucky to be able to do that. I was lucky there was a way for me to do that within the programming at the school.
Okay,
Now,
this
why do I remember there was another play called Tripwire, right? That was it seems to me that when I went to see your play, there was also a play called Tripwire, and I forget who wrote Tripwire.
Was that
Yes.
Peter Filkins, or was that no?
Maybe.
Yes, Peter Filkins was in Tripwire,
That's right. That's right.
and it was written by Elise Brunel, who had not in our class, Elise Brunel, but in the class of '89. She was also in the Young Playwrights program through the Playwrights Center.
Steph.
Okay, I have to ask.
Go ahead.
I'm going to ask, have you written a play since then
She
that we
has.
missed?
The order.
Yeah.
The order.
Yeah, when I was young and ambitious, I wrote some other stuff. But I haven't really written any scripts in a long time.
Jen, do you have more detail on this? Stephanie seems somewhat reluctant.
Yeah, she needs to tell some more because it was super cool. It was a play about, and Steph, I can't remember if this was an actual person. I don't want to say historical figure because I think.
Oh, that.
Yeah, that. Or if it was a play that she wrote, and it was was it technically a musical? There was music in it.
It was a play that, I'll just be honest, it was like the subject matter was fascinating. I don't think I had the chops to handle it. But it was a play that was about desegregation in Little Rock. And this was in the 90s. And then Steve Hutton, I think, wrote music for it.
Really?
That makes sense. Wow.
Yeah, so this
Segregation. Okay.
yeah, but it was like, it's kind of like the musical, so desegregation, the musical. It wasn't like that, but it's something that it takes a lot of chops to do that and and make it work. And and it was a big challenge, and I'm glad I took it. I'm not sure. I don't know if I succeeded though.
I remember seeing it. And it was performed. It was performed at the Ordway, which is, you know, if I'm the right one.
Oh wait, was it?
You've forgotten. Maybe it's a different play.
Maybe it is a different one. Maybe it was what? No, this was youth performance company.
No, the one that I'm thinking of, I swear I'm not making.
Oh, that was another one. I'm sorry. So funny. It's like a world.
I forget all the plays I've written too, Steph.
Oh no. Yeah, no, that was no. Okay, sorry. Yeah, that was like a loosely autobiographical play about some amazing singers in the Twin Cities. And they basically told their life stories. I recorded them and cobbled it together into a script of sorts. But it was all like the show was all about them singing and sharing their life stories. And I just was basically a transcriptionist.
Awesome. I think I still have the poster somewhere in a box somewhere.
Oh, thank you. That's cool. And Jen, I'm sorry. There might be other questions, but
Oh, keep going.
Jenn was an amazing performer in high school as well, and maybe she can tell us about her memories of thank you, Child Play Theater.
It was so fun. It was so fun. It was this awesome, just community-based theater, and I think now it's current for anybody local. It kind of made its way into being stages theater, but yeah, it was all children's theater, and it was awesome because we got to do performances for like grade school age kids, so we got to be out of school during the week doing performances and running around this fun theater at what used to be Eisenhower High School. That theater there, it was a blast. It was just a ton of kids musicals and a bunch of fun people from Hopkins. Let's see, Miriam, I'm forgetting Miriam
Johnson.
Miriam Johnson, and I'm just gonna space all kinds of people. Bart Goodrich and
Oh yeah, Bart. Oh, talk about talent, Bart. Yeah.
all kinds of people. It was super fun, and then it was just a great time, and like honestly, one of my favorite sort of pieces of high school. And like, you know, you took the activities bus over there. I feel like it was like 5 days a week, and then you'd have performances, you know, through the weekend. And looking at that now as a parent, I'm like, oh my God, that just seems like it would be such a hassle. But I don't know, it was just kind of what you did. You did your homework on the bus, and you know, bought little Debbie snack cakes in the vending machine, and like it was really fun. And then I was able to do some fun theater in college, and then Steph, you were saying you kind of went on to like more kind of stable sort of stuff, and I've loved hearing about other members of our class who went on and had like dance careers and music careers and, you know, these arts careers that they just went for and did. So yeah.
Well,
You guys, I was just going to say though, do you do any performing at all, like even just for fun or, you know, hobby? Either one of you?
I haven't been in a play in a long time, and my husband likes playing the guitar, so like just for fun I'll like sing with him just like for the fun of it, but no performing in years. How about you, Steph?
There was a brief, strange time in my life when I did a lot of improv comedy.
Yes, that's so awesome.
That's because I've done the same thing, and I don't want to say it's the easiest outlet, but it's a very accessible outlet if you want to perform, is to take classes and go up on open nights and stuff.
Right. You could take, you could take classes, even if you're just not really interested in actually like performing beyond a showcase thing for your class. It's great. It helps you think on your feet. It's a great outlet for all kinds of reasons. It also can become strange. So as anyone who's done it can tell you. You know, that was a positive experience too, I would say. And also it's sort of like, it helped I think the cool thing about writing, improv, and other things is that, you know, if you're not like in the traditional mold of leading man or leading woman or whatever, you just get on stage and you can make your own mold or fungus or whatever, however you want to put it. You know what I mean? Like you can you're not constrained as much by other people's perceptions of what you can do.
Very true.
We have some comments, more comments. A greeting from Julie Steelman. Super talented ladies. Is Julie Steelman, is that her maiden name?
Yes. Yeah.
Julie Steelman is here. Jim Sexton really likes Jason's new microphone.
Oh, can we see it? Wait, or is it like one of those Janet Jackson-y things? Well,
It's like, what are they, steampunk or something? It looks sort of sci-fi to me, but
it's from the
Anyway.
future.
yeah.
It's
Marnie bragged to me that she bought a microphone, and I bought a microphone too, and now she's not even using hers tonight. So
Well, I don't
this
want
thing
to
is getting legit. We're buying gear for it.
Well, I want to know, in this pandemic, is there something special or new that you have done in your lives that you want to share? Jen?
Ooh, honestly, just kind of repeat doing some of the, just singing again, just like for myself and with my husband. That's just been, yeah, that's been a fun thing. And I don't know, we're not gonna go like full on trap or anything, but I have 2 daughters and I love to hear them sing. And they, of course, like, you know, don't think they're good or they're not hams particularly. And like trying to see if I could get all 4 of us just to sing together, just as kind of a family thing. We'll see if I'm able to convince them.
There's still time. How about you, Stephanie? Have you started doing something new during the pandemic?
No.
Nothing at
All
all.
these people were like baking bread and stuff. This year I did finally get a plot in a nearby community garden.
Okay.
It's not totally a new thing, but it's not necessarily related to the fact that there's a pandemic, but that's something new for me.
Yeah, I've been feeling the need to garden too lately for some reason, just because if you buy enough fresh produce from farmers markets or whatever, you get to a certain point where you're like, you know, give me a break with these prices for tomatoes.
I think there's a book called like the $72 tomato.
Yeah.
You should read, Jason, before you scoff at farmers market prices. And like, I got really interested in urban agriculture or whatever, however you want to call it. And I volunteered on a farm that's not too far from where I live in the Mill Creek section of West Philadelphia. And it was really exciting. And it's always sort of a thing that I think is like in my blood, because my grandfather was a farmer, and, you know, and he had a small farm. But, you know, my farm is even smaller. It's like 4 feet by 12 feet. So, but it's fun to like when I'm talking to my dad, ask him questions, because he grew up on a farm, and, you know, ask him for advice and stuff. He left that farm as soon as he could. But he still
Did you
a lot.
Did you have a big old garden in Minnetonka when we were growing up? Did your family have a garden?
Mine?
Yeah.
Sorry. We had a small one for a little while. When we moved to Woodland Road, there wasn't a lot of light in the lot. It was a very shady lot. So,
It strikes me that, you know, when we all grew up in the suburbs with these massive yards, And I remember my mom had a garden with our neighbor, and like the first year it was very ambitious. And the second year they cut that thing down to like a quarter of what it was. Like there were so many zucchinis.
Right, of course, right.
Like,
And rhubarb.
yeah, yes. Just a lot of everything. Like there's only so many things you can do with zucchini. Everybody laughs about zucchinis because everybody, you know, has a friend who's always trying to pawn zucchinis on.
Yeah, I don't even bother planting. I'm not doing zucchini.
Yeah.
Jen has like, Jen's yard is really cool. Jen's house is really cool. It's
So
like,
tell us about your, where you, so you live in Excelsior. Where would any of us know it? Excelsior is a super cool
oh yeah.
area.
It is. I'm not in the super cool part that you're thinking of. Like when I the super cool Excelsior, it's like, you know, Water Street and kind of down by the lake, and it's super fun. I'm on the other side of Highway 7, just residential. If anybody would have any reason to know where Minnetonka Middle School West is, kind of just behind that. Not that far from Paisley Park. I drive by it almost every day. And one of my greatest life regrets, like seemingly everyone in this area has had a personal encounter of some variety with Prince. And he used to bike around here all the time. And so I would tell my kids growing up, I'm like, okay, Prince's hair looks like this now.
Oh,
If you see a guy who looks like this biking by, tell me right away. Like, I don't know what I was gonna do. I don't know if I was gonna like pull over and take a photo, but you know, I know people who like, they stood behind him once in Cub Foods in Chanhassen, like picturing that is just mind blowing. And I never had my personal experience with Prince. I don't know how I got there, but because I said I lived sort of by Paisley Park. Yeah, so I'm just kind of super, like, I didn't know where this was before we were house hunting, but yeah, it's just kind of tucked back, kind of older, small neighborhood, very suburban. There were coyotes last night having like a little howl fest outside.
Yeah.
So
I was just telling some weirdos around here about, well, I was drinking a beer with my Glen Lake Liquors can cozy, right? And they're like, where's Glen Lake? And I'm like, oh, let me tell you about Glen Lake. And I'm like, Glen Lake is a community that was built around a trolley stop.
Yeah, that's
Because-
why it's called Glen Lake Station.
Yes.
And that it was like a mystery. Like, why is this Glen Lake Station? And then
Yeah.
I learned the history of the public transit.
Yeah. That they all ripped up at about the
Yeah.
time that they should have been building more.
Exactly.
But those
Yeah.
trolleys went out. My parents would tell me that those trolleys went out to, my parents grew up in South Minneapolis. They would ride those trolleys out to Excelsior, where you would then get on a boat and go to Big Island and ride amusement park rides.
there's supposed to be like a big deal amusement park there. Like it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, like international musical acts would cut their teeth there at this amusement park in Excelsior. Glen Lake Liquors. I remember I have a Glen Lake Liquors memory, but it's nice though. It's because if your parents went there to buy some cordials or whatever it is, they would give you a little like root beer candy.
Yeah.
Or Tootsie Rolls. I got
Put
Oh,
the bucket up on the counter and let you fish one out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, for years after we graduated from high school, Dave Green worked there. And so when I would go home, I would walk in there and the two old guys would be up front and I'd say, is Dave working? And they'd say, yeah. And you'd have to go back and like open up the beer cooler and yell back like, Green, are you back there? I
was gonna say I ran into Dave Green like years after I'd been years since I'd seen him there, and it was such an awesome thing. Now where Glen Lake Liquors, there used to be, do you guys remember Kramer's Hardware?
Oh yeah, Kramer's.
Okay, that's not there anymore. It's there's a dance studio right next to a gun shop, right next to I don't remember what, but the post office is still there. Glen Lake, where you remember it?
See, this is like when I signed on to do this, I remember it saying I was gonna be like, oh, nostalgia, but I'm like, now I have all this nostalgia for Glen Lake and the post office. And the interesting thing was like when I was, you know, like in the 70s, Glen Lake, or even when we went to Lund's, which was a little further away, and maybe it's because, you know, my mom was easy to spot, but the people would say, "Hello, Mrs. Brown." Like we'd get our gas filled. "Hello, Mrs. Brown." Go to the butcher shop. "Hello, Mrs. Brown." And that just blows my mind. I mean, it's funny because coming back to the East Coast that's the only other place I know of that still has that, where like I go to the taco truck, they know my name, you know, or whatever. But you know, thinking about that kind of familiarity in the suburbs today, I guess I would assume it's rare. I don't know, Jen, are people saying hello, Miss Len Price when you're when you shop, or
They're not. Yeah, no.
they should.
It was, though, that whole area has transitioned from, I mean, it really was sort of like a small town.
Yeah.
You know, me and every other kid, every other boy I know got our haircut at Ken's barbershop.
Ah,
And, you know, if you were, you know, my mom would leave money out for me after school, and I was supposed to ride my bike up there and get my,
our bikes
and there was a bakery, you know, and like
bakery.
we all bought our bikes at Tonka.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
you get your Schwinn at the, yeah, it was really like that. And then Kokish.
Oh.
Yes. Yes.
My brother being athletic and me, they tried to make me athletic, but didn't work. We would spend all this time in this sporting goods store called Kokish,
Yeah.
buying your skates,
Yeah.
your skis.
At everything. Some national sports writers who grew up in the Twin Cities were just throwing Kokish around on Twitter the other week.
Oh.
And I was out of my brain. And they were producing like these old you know, newspaper ads for
They
the
had
Kokish Crazy Days sale.
They had this really cool logo. I'm sorry to reminisce about the Kokish logo, but it was so cool because it was like a guy with a hockey stick and this woman, I can't remember what she did, karate, I don't know. And and when you went in there, it just seemed like so cool. And yeah, Kokish.
Tony Ceruno's bringing up Gina Maria's Pizza. Which,
it's so salty. Deliciously salty pizza.
I still love it.
But Jen, unless there's a question, I don't know if there's any questions. No, nobody's asking this question.
Mark bored to tears with the Glen Lake.
You know what? I'm glad, because I had this like fears of the questions we were asked. Like, remember in junior high when you wore the flood pants? You know, I don't know why I thought that was gonna happen, but you know, and I brought it up myself, so I did it to myself. But Jen, can we talk about the bakery you worked at?
Oh God, Nelson's Bakery. Nelson's Bakery was like a hotbed of all kinds of stuff, man. Drug deals on
really?
Yes.
This is in Hopkins, right? Nelson's was in Hopkins?
And it wasn't until recently they moved. I don't know where they are now, but yeah, it was there for years and years and years, and like kind of an institution, right? Like family, and there were, I don't know, some shady managers. I don't think it was like official Nelson's Bakery drug business.
No. It was
a little side gig going with some, and it was on the bakery side of things. It was not on the deli and meats side of things. It was the bakery was the shady side of the operation. Yeah, I remember Sue Weiler worked there too. No part of the drug dealing, but we had a lot of muffins. It was crazy. And once, so I think I was like, I don't know, 14 or 15, however old I was. And I remember, and looking back on it now, I think that probably this guy was pretty messed up at the time when he did it. But like the guy, I don't know if he's manager, who cares? He's the baker. So he'd been there since 3 a.m. or whatever. He got into like an argument with another woman who was working in the back of the bakery and just took her and like shoved her against the wall. And I was like, you know, I didn't have any workplace experience. I definitely didn't have any like workplace violence experience. So I was like, "Ah." And then, you know, I just kept working there. I don't think I told my parents. I don't know what happened. I was like, I guess that's what happens at the bakery. I don't know.
No, there's a lot of things like that. I remember from, young adulthood and teen, like stuff would happen and in your heart, you were like, well, that shouldn't be happening. But then you just go doopy doo and you just go along with it. And it's yeah.
I used to get to go along with Jerry, the cake decorator. And so this was what, mid-'80s. And so people had very elegant, refined, understated, you know, 12-tier wedding cakes with all the, you know, fountains and stuff. And on an awesome Saturday, I would get to go along with Jerry, the cake decorator, and go set up these like ridiculous, awesome cake setups at different places. That was
At the reception hall. Or
yes,
whatever,
at the
right?
reception
Like,
hall. Like that was pretty cool. But and I, like, I'm sure I carried stuff. I don't know what I did, but
yeah.
pretty fun.
Stephanie, did you have a job in high school?
Speaking of pizza, I had a checkered high school career. Oh, hello.
Hi. You're live. You're Zoom bombing us.
Oh, sorry.
It's
Hi,
okay.
I'm Calliope. I'm her daughter.
Hi, Calliope.
Okay, we're live. Okay, she didn't mean to interrupt.
So you had a checkered high school career, but no jobs.
Well, I had jobs. I had jobs. So one of my jobs was Shakey's. I worked at Shakey's.
You did not.
Shakey's, the
On
legendary.
Highway 7?
Yes, on Highway 7, we had to boomerang around to get to it.
And did you make pizza?
No, I did not. I did not make pizza. I was a cashier. And Jen can talk about Taco Bell since I'm gonna make you talk about Taco Bell
I
too.
think
I was also on Highway 7. Yeah, I was a cashier at Shakey's, and that was fascinating. I remember like because Shakey's would take checks, right?
yeah.
Sure.
But the management was like, we need to see some ID with these checks now. And I'm like, okay. So I would ask people to show ID. And this one guy was so mad because no one had ever questioned his ability to write a check before. He's like, I could buy and sell this place. And I'm like, feel free. You know, I just, would you like an orange pop to, you know, and then also I was so in love with Shakey's though, because
so
every
good.
birthday party I ever had up until I stopped having them, and Jen, you'll remember, hopefully you remember, have happy memories of some of my birthday parties.
Very happy memory.
I would go to Shakey's
Yeah.
and
Sure.
and they would put they'd have the marshmallow they put in the middle of the pizza with the candle. And you could blow it out. That was cool.
We have some more comments since we're still going. Doug Robertson says, don't stop with the nostalgia. John Babcock, hi, Jenny, my birthday buddy.
Hey, birthday.
Julie Steelman says, Jerry did my wedding cake.
Yours, it was beautiful. Yours was very elegant and refined.
Keelan Conley says, the message is, Tony Ceruno, still there, bro, and absolutely outstanding. It's just a few.
Marnie, are there still Shakey's in California? Why do I ever think that this is a thing? No.
No, I thought they were still there too. I'm sad.
We're holding up the hope. Like,
That was another super salty pizza.
yes.
My first pizza. Oh gosh.
Where did Suzanne Grandchamp's dad play the?
Not Shakey's.
No, it wasn't.
It was
What
like
was it? Cicero? No.
Farrell's. There was this chain called Farrell's.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
I believe so.
Like,
And I remember-
oops, sorry. Highlights of my childhood were, this was my experience in the suburbs of like where somebody knows you. We evidently went there often enough and you could request songs. And Mr. Grandchamp, who was phenomenal, whenever I'd go in there, he'd play the Rocky theme for me because he knew I liked it. Evidently, I must have requested it a lot. And I was like, I just felt like a superstar. It was pretty great.
Well, we have, I'm going to interrupt. Tony Ceruno is chiming in, our Southern California expert. Tony Ceruno says Shakey's is still alive and well in Los Angeles. Not sure that's a good thing.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
It survived on birthday parties. Let's face it.
Yeah.
It was.
Pizza.
I remember that Shakey's had a player piano, and you know,
Yes.
when you were like 9 years old, you could just sit there and watch that player piano.
Yeah, with the little.
go
Right,
and
yeah,
go.
like I actually remember there was a time when there was a live pianist there, but they replaced it with they had the player piano, and you could put the little like strips in it and watch the, you know, I can't remember. It's like a roll of paper that has like an early key punch thing that tells the piano what to play. And that was fun. But you know what was not necessarily, it was sort of an alarming thing, was the lunch buffet. The lunch buffet would kind of get scary sometimes.
Well, the buffets are now kind of maybe just a 20th century thing,
Yeah.
right?
Out of that.
Bye-bye buffets for many of us.
Buffets might not come back unless they're outdoors. Yeah.
Well, the only other thing that got covered here in the questions and the comments, I believe also from Julie Steelman, was she brought up Mr. Kafkas.
Yeah.
And Kafkas has come up in other sessions, and we were chatting about him a little bit earlier about the marionette program. But again, I just like, you know, we look back on our, you know, and not even with a nostalgic lens sometimes, just like comparing the education that we had to the education that kids have now, and that just wild and wacky Gatewood 6th grade scene that there was with those 3 men teachers.
That's awesome.
And like the music, the grade musical that we put on, the puppet shows, you know, just the great, you know, experience that we had there.
It's fantastic.
And I just
Very
remember
nice.
that. I remember you both from those years at Gatewood, 6th grade, you know, probably especially. But
Yeah, that's good stuff. Do you guys remember the
grade.
lemon drops and the peanuts with Mr. Kafkas? If you did like a good thing, you got to choose between lemon drops and peanuts, and the idea was you could have like a lemon drop or more peanuts. Isn't that just mind blowing that in school they're like, here, have some peanuts with
Yeah, have
that's
these,
happened now, but
right, peanuts
idea
of
was-
all things, and no.
peanuts, I know,
I don't think peanuts are allowed within 20 feet of a school.
right?
Oh, that also reminds me, I want to talk about the North Door at some point, but maybe
now's the time to
I'm
talk
not
about it.
that's qualified to talk about the North Door.
No, you're, yeah,
But
anybody is.
yeah, but I'm sorry, I'm jumping around. But see, 6th grade was like an interesting time. My dog is like freaking out. I don't know why. 6th grade, like, I'll just tell you this. 6th grade was kind of like, like when that video, speaking of Mr. Kafkas, when that video came out of of the Super 8 movies or whatever he took, and I watched it for a second. I'm like, look at Jen, she's so cute. Look at all these little, and then I saw myself. I was like, because that was like a really weird year for me. And you know, yeah, it was just weird. But I remember sitting with Jen, Julie, and Beth Blesser.
Oh wow, yeah.
Yeah, in Mr. Wager's class, and there was a girl from Great Britain who sat there with us for a little while.
Becky something.
Yeah, Becky. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know, yeah, it was like it was kind of a time of transition from, you know, not like total childhood innocence, but it's like, okay, we're getting ready to go to junior high. All kinds of stuff's happening developmentally, and it was, and I want to like. And it wasn't like always like my finest hour, I think, in terms of like me being like friendly and stuff like that. And, you know, I'm just really happy that like people aren't holding grudges or anything. like when I was a jerk or whatever. And Jen, I don't like, maybe you were a secret jerk or whatever, but Jen, as a friend, like was always so remarkably kind and thoughtful and patient. Because I could be like, I was like a spaz and stuff, but Jen, you know, like never held it. I never felt like you were holding it against me or anything like that. And like there were times when you were like, in high school, I remember there were times when you called me out for doing something stupid, but but always like with, you know, total kindness and not in this like, well, if you don't shape up, forget it, we can't be friends or whatever, you know. So I'm really grateful just to have known you.
Oh my God.
And still to know you, still, like we're still friends.
Yes, that like means the world to me. And I can't like, I don't know what I would have called you out for. And I'm kind of super embarrassed that I did anything. Like I was definitely not in any position to call anybody anything. Yeah, it's just like a treasure to have. That's a long time friendship. And I treasure that. Thank you. Wow.
And another amazing thing about the friendship is like, so, you know, on the surface, we don't look alike. And our lives are very different. You know, I have a dog and a cat and nephews. And yet when I get together with Jen, we just connect. We reconnect. It's not like, oh, it's as if we've, you know, hadn't ever been apart, because obviously things change over the years. But it's great because that's just not always the case, especially nowadays. Like nowadays, you know, it's like, oh, you don't have kids? Well, I can't talk to you. You know, or you don't do this, I can't talk to you. And it was like, that never became the case between me and Jen, you know?
Well, I'm so grateful that you can have shared your lifelong friendship with us. It's one of the reasons why we started the show, to explore different memories that we don't have of ourselves, but also to really celebrate and treasure these lifelong friendships and relationships. And it just was really sweet to hear about how much you care about each other. It really came through tonight.
Yeah.
Gift.
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, that thinking about those times, I mean, again, I went great on the sixth grade, you know, situation, but that was the beginning of adolescence for many, if not all of us. And that's not a full on, you know, rosy period in our life. And it is, I think, really unique to have had a friend at that moment who would, you know, not just sort of, you know, put up with us in our worst times, but maybe, you know, understand and, you know, be that person who was like, well, I don't think there's any need to be, you know, angry. That would be a really unique, I think, aspect of any of those childhood friendships that we had. So
great stuff.
I mean, maybe that's a part of it, is when we are friends through adolescence, maybe that is one of the cements to friendships, or could be a cement, right? To see someone go through adolescence, I'm not sure. But this was so great. It was so nice to talk with both of you tonight. Thank you so much for coming.
Yes. Marnie, who is up next week?
Oh my goodness, you can talk while I pull it up.
Okay. Obviously, we'll have guests next week. We are continuing this. No, I know who it is next week. It's the rare case of a couple that graduated with us that married each other. Eric Rarup and Elise Hope Rarup will join us next week. So that will be a whole other like dynamic that we've not yet really gotten into. We've had a few people who have like dated, you know, like Sarah and Mike were on. They dated in high school, but like, and we'll get all into it next week.
Yeah, so that's
I'm really
the first
excited.
couple. And then after that, on September 29th, we have Dr. Mark Mingy and his surprise guest. And we have also booked a special show on October 27th with Doug Robertson and our art teacher, Mel Jacobson.
And we're filling in other dates. So again, don't be bashful. If you really want to be on the show and you really want to have be on with a particular friend, let us know, because that's helpful. Because otherwise we're left to just single people out on Facebook. We've had a couple rejections, which is cool. Just, there's no
pressure.
pressure at all.
Microphone, Jason.
What's that?
That was before the new microphone. It's a
Right.
different world.
Right. Right. Totally different. Well, great to see you, Stephanie and Jen. Marnie, great to see you. And we will gather in the same spot next Tuesday. And hopefully next week will be a seamless Facebook experience for us. But in any case.
Stay safe, everybody.
Yeah, stay safe, everyone. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.